This is Danielle Manning from the National Weather Service New Orleans Baton Rouge Forecast Office, and over the next few minutes I'll be talking about Hurricane Katrina's impact and some of the changes that have been implemented since the infamous 2005 hurricane season. It's been 10 years since Hurricane Katrina devastated parts of the northern Gulf Coast, and a lot of things have changed since then. But before we talk about the changes, let's start by taking a look at the events leading up to Katrina's landfall. The storm complex that would become Hurricane Katrina developed into a tropical depression on the afternoon of August 23rd near the southeastern Bahamas. Less than 24 hours later, it had become a tropical storm and was given its name. Katrina made her first U.S. landfall on August 25th near Fort Lauderdale, Florida as a Category 1 hurricane. Instead of moving westward across the Florida peninsula, the storm took a turn to the southwest, also impacting the greater Miami area. Katrina's unexpected southwestward movement resulted in the forecast continually shifting westward over the course of the next 24 hours. These two forecasts, issued 24 hours apart, show the shift in forecast track from the Florida Panhandle to southeast Louisiana. By the morning of August 27th, it was clear that Katrina would blow a devastating hit to the central Gulf Coast, and a hurricane watch was issued. Throughout the day, evacuation orders were enacted along much of the coastline, and on the morning of August 28th, a dire warning was issued by the National Weather Service. While the warning was primarily focused on wind damage, the overall message unfortunately proved correct. Katrina did cause devastating damage, and much of the area was, in fact, uninhabitable for weeks or longer. By that afternoon, rain bands had already begun impacting portions of the area. The forecast discussion issued by the National Weather Service just before 5 p.m. said, "The worst can be anticipated. The eye is visible on the long-range radar loop, and bands are extending to Lake Pontchartrain at this time. Things will be deteriorating steadily from this point forward. Good luck and Godspeed to all in the path of this storm." About 12 hours later, at 5:10 a.m. on the morning of August 29th, Hurricane Katrina made landfall near Buras, Louisiana. After crossing Plaquemines and St. Bernard parishes, a third and final landfall occurred near Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. Coastal areas of extreme southeast Louisiana and Mississippi bore the brunt of Katrina's power, though the full extent of the damage wouldn't be realized until the following day. All told, Hurricane Katrina stands as the costliest hurricane in U.S. history, with a total of $108 billion in damage. Some of the costliest impacts, however, have no dollar value, as coastal erosion and land loss were astounding. One look at the Chandeleur Islands before and after the storm clearly shows the large-scale land loss from these important barrier islands off of Louisiana's coast. Similar damage was observed to the islands of the Mississippi Sound. In Mississippi, coastal areas were decimated by a record 28-foot storm surge that penetrated 6 to 12 miles inland and leveled buildings in its path. Winds gusted as high as 122 miles per hour, causing additional damage, and up to 10 inches of rain led to flooding even in some inland areas. 238 people lost their lives in the storm, most of them due to drowning near the coast. Storm surge was slightly lower in Louisiana, but at nearly 20 feet it was still enough to result in overtopping and breaching of some levees. Wind gusts over 100 miles per hour caused damage throughout southeast Louisiana, and up to 15 inches of rain led to additional flooding. An estimated 1,577 people lost their lives in Louisiana, the majority due to drowning, and many of them in the New Orleans area. The lessons learned from the events leading up to and following Hurricane Katrina's landfall have led to many changes in the past 10 years. Thankfully, an emphasis on resiliency is evident in the rebuilding of many of the hardest-hit areas. Bridges that were destroyed by Katrina's storm surge were built back higher in an effort to avoid damage from future storms. The levee systems that protect much of the area were strengthened, with new floodgates and flood walls added for more protection, and many people chose to elevate their homes off of slab level in an effort to escape similar fates in the future. Unfortunately, even 10 years later, many places still have not fully recovered. Residential blocks are still dotted with empty lots in some of the hardest-hit areas, and other areas have been completely abandoned as their exposed locations would likely lead to repeated losses. In the wake of Hurricane Katrina, the National Weather Service has also changed the way that we communicate storm surge risk. Over the last 10 years, with guidance from social scientists and input from emergency management, media, and the public alike, the Weather Service has developed several new products to help communicate the life-threatening risk associated with storm surge. The two most notable introductions are the Potential Storm Surge Flooding Map and the Storm Surge Watch Warning Graphic. The Potential Storm Surge Flooding Map was introduced during the 2014 hurricane season. It represents a reasonable worst-case scenario for storm surge flooding and is color-coded in increments of 3 feet. It is based on the current forecast and accounts for typical forecast errors. This map provides an easy visual reference for decision making. The Storm Surge Watch Warning graphic is new for the 2015 hurricane season. This product highlights all areas where life-threatening storm surge inundation will be possible in the next 36 to 48 hours. Coastal areas will always be vulnerable to hurricanes, and Katrina is a painful reminder of that fact. We can only hope that the changes implemented since 2005 will help avoid a similar catastrophe in the future through effective risk communication and rebuilding in a more resilient and sustainable way. We appreciate you watching this video, and if you would like more information about Hurricane Katrina, we welcome you to visit our website listed at the bottom of this slide.